What's going on, y'all? My name is Grayson Russell.
Hey, it's Presley Tunnett here.
Hey everybody, Robbie Johnson here.
This is Darian Lee.
Hey y'all, this is Billy Joe Jones.
My name is Rye Rivers.
Hi, I'm Chloe Styler, and you are listening to The Jay Franzi Show.
Be sure to enjoy it.
Thank y'all.
Welcome to The Jay Franzi Show, a behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franzi and Tiffany Mason.
And we are coming at you live. I am Jay Franzi, and with me tonight, the Sandy to my Danny, my beautiful co-host, Miss Tiffany Mason.
Well, good evening, everyone.
If you are new to the show, this is your source for the latest news, reviews, and interviews. So if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranzi.com. Well, tonight we have a very special guest. Miss Tiffany, I said it once, I will say it again. We have a very special guest. We have a recording artist with us, but you get this as a twist to it tonight, Miss Tiffany. Hold on.
Ooh, I like a twist.
We will get there. Hailing from the great state of Indiana, we have Mr. Christopher Wyze. Christopher, sir, how are you?
Glad to be with you, Jay, and Tiffany especially. I thought you were the surprise, Tiffany, but I guess I'll be the surprise tonight.
She's a surprise
like
to everybody. She is definitely a surprise. Mr. Christopher, sir, how did you develop a passion for blues, being from Indiana?
Well, it's funny. My brother came home from college, and that'll corrupt you or something. He came home with an album called B.B. King and Bobby Blue Bland live together for the first time. And he put those vinyls on, I remember, when he came home from college. And it was like, whoa, that is super cool. Now, my mom listened to people like Sam Cooke and Sinatra. So there was a little bit of that in there, but it was like cooler than that. It was kind of like mixed up with Elvis and all that. So I kind of stuck that in the back of my head. And then we had the Mills Brothers playing in the house and so forth. So had a little bit of blues going on there. And that's kind of where it first came in. But eventually I kind of made a pilgrimage to Clarksdale, Mississippi. And then it just got off the rails, man, for me. And I just got steeped in the blues. But we'll get into that if we need to. But that's kind of where it all started.
Were you already performing at that time?
Well, I performed and sang, musicals and in a choir and things as a kid and in high school. And so I kind of came to music as a performer. And we had a real good music program. We would sing the Messiah with an orchestra and things like that. So, I mean, it was super cool. And, I got to understand really all the parts of music. I was a freshman in high school and I was a first tenor. So I could have been in the Vienna Boys Choir. And then a sophomore, I was a second tenor and then a baritone and then a bass. So I kind of matured my way through the treble clef into the bass clef. But along the way, it was like, oh, I get it. There's kind of a melody and there's some harmony. And then there's the bass and that's kind of the rhythm. And even if it's Handel's Messiah, it's still, you get a sense for how it all fits together. So I sang, and then I went to school, went to college. I was a writer and a journalist and an advertising guy. And I really went away from music for a long, long time. And kind of 20 years or so ago, started singing in a cover band as a front man. And the guys were into the blues, the guys who were in that cover band who asked me to be the front man. And I, of course, had to say, wait a minute, what's a front man? I actually said that. I remember I was like this kind of uptight business guy. I'm like, oh, hold on here. What are you talking about? But I eventually did that. And then these guys were just crazy about the blues. And it's like, whoa, I remember that stuff. So kind of jumped back into it. And I decided to learn the harmonica, which sent me on an odyssey to the Mississippi Delta. And I learned a heck of a lot more there and met a lot of folks who helped me really make records and really get into this business in a crazy kind of way that I never imagined.
Now, you say you were brought back into the blues when you joined this band. So what music were you interested in at that time?
I listened to, classic rock, man. I mean, that's what I liked. I liked Supertramp, and I liked Eddie Money, and I liked Kansas and Boston and Elton John. I mean, just all the great kind of stuff. I grew up in the 70s. My sisters were quite a few years older. They don't want to admit that, but they listened to the Beatles, and God, I love the Beatles. They didn't listen to the Stones. They listened to the Beatles, the Beach Boys, John Sebastian, just stuff like that. The Monkees. I mean, I love the Monkees. So there was kind of music flowing all around, but just, hey man, rock and roll, baby. This is the 70s. And it was kind of like, Garth and whatever his name is in the movie. I mean, that was kind of the way it was. I had terrible hair at the time. It was really bad, and we thought we were cool, but we were not cool.
I have a podcast where I talk to people about music, and it's pretty common that an older sibling will expose them to, a certain type of genre. So what was that like? Like, he comes home and he's like, hey, Christopher, you got to check out this vinyl, or how does the conversation go down where you guys end up swapping music?
It was more like, hey, what are you doing in my room? I mean, just because I'm away at college.
That's what I was expecting.
Like, have my stuff. And by the way, I'm going to put on some tunes and get out. It's kind of like that, but I think I must have had my ear up against the door or something. And, he's a college kid, so he's playing it really loud. So I could hear it. We get along famously now, but it wasn't quite that way when we were growing up, So,
not when it's your kid brother.
Yeah, and I was the younger brother, so it's like, oh, leave me out, get out of here, kid, you bother me. So it was more like that. And my sisters, listen to the Beach Boys and stuff like that. So, I heard that kind of coming under the door kind of way as well. So that's kind of where it was. But we got into, like Foghat, man, I remember, and the Doobie Brothers, and God, it was just so cool. And we actually, I remember going to see the Doobie Brothers and Foghat in Evansville, Indiana, where I grew up, big stadium shows. And we just thought that was, that was just amazing. It was just super cool. So, we kind of had our own music that we got into that probably everybody did, but we thought it was ours, right?
You mentioned the Beatles and the Stones and bands like that growing up. Do you make that connection between blues and that style of music? Because the Stones and those type of bands incorporated blues into their music.
No question, 100% now. I certainly didn't recognize it at the time, but when really try to study and learn about the blues, and when you do, you go, oh, I get it. There was the blues, and then there was rock and roll, and I didn't know that. And now that I make music and write music and things like that, I didn't know how important sort of the pattern of the blues, the 1-4-5 and the 12 bars and all that kind of stuff was to popular music, rock and roll music, and rockabilly music, country music. I mean, the blues flows through every bit of it. So, I've got a bit of a different perspective now that I kind of see everything through the lens of the blues, which is super cool. And just kind of a side note, our music's on big radio records. It's part of a company that was founded by Sam Phillips in 1960. So it's called Selecto Hits. And Sam Phillips, who recorded Elvis and Howlin Wolf and a lot of great bluesmen there in Memphis, his nephew and his son run the company today. And that's the guys I work with there at Big Radio Records out of Memphis. So it ties right into the blues too, which is kind of, you got to pinch me. It's just like so cool to be that close to, something really important and historic and uniquely American about what goes on with the music that we make here.
We grew up roughly at the same time. And if I were thinking of making it in music these days, it would be tough because of the age of the typical artist that makes it these days. But you've chosen a genre that actually benefits the more seasoned people. So do you feel like that being in that genre is what's going to lead you to a longer career?
Well, yeah, there's no question. It's interesting when I first started writing music and recording music, which was 5 years ago for the first time. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. All I wanted to do was make this record. And I'll tell you how we made it here in a minute. And I had no idea where it would go. I had no idea if I would just like play it for friends at parties and make sure they had plenty of adult beverages before we put it on and that kind of stuff. But that's not the way this thing went down. In fact, I ended up joining the Nashville Songwriters Association. Kind of out of the blue, I took these recordings that I wasn't sure what I was going to do with, and through their mentor program, some folks listened to it and said, "Hey, we like that." I had one guy say, I would buy that stuff. And so then I went to this event. I got to looking around, Jay. I was looking for guys that looked like you and I, that era, but I was actually looking at folks like Tiffany as well, if you know what I mean. But
oh, I know what you mean. I get it.
Dawned on me that, hey, I'm having a great time at this songwriting conference, and I'm the oldest person here, and I might be older than anyone here knows. So I'm like, I'm a marketing guy. I was an advertising guy forever and ever. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not your market, Christopher Wyze. Your market is something else. And so long story or short story long, Jay, yeah, it occurs to me that that's the only place I can fit. I get it. They're like, you're not our guy, man. And you got to be smart enough to know where your place is, I think, whatever you're marketing or promoting or having people that you want to be interested in it. So it all kind of came together kind of curiously that, oh yeah, I love the blues. I sing in a blues band, and I just got into the Nashville Songwriters Association because I didn't know really much about songwriting. So I thought I don't know, join an association and see what happened. And that's what happened. It led me to a good decision, which was to get after the blues and to do it after I'd already had my career. I owned a business. I spent decades being a writer, an advertising guy, writing books. And, I wrote all sorts of advertising and videos and commercials and technical things, and 5 books I've got in print and so forth. So I've written a lot of stuff. And so by the time when I got to the point where I needed to write music, I already knew how to write. I've been doing it for decades. I hired writers. They worked for me. I trained writers. I edited their stuff. And so then I got to do that stuff for me when it came to writing songs and put it through the same sort of process and hurdles that I used to give to other people. But I do it now with my music. Wait a minute. That's a terrible verb. Where'd you get that? That doesn't make any sense. No one understands that. You're putting me to sleep, man. I'm telling myself this. It's like, you got to do better than that. So
in this genre, this music doesn't happen without an experience. And I think that's what makes the older generations better at the music than the younger generations.
Like piggybacking on this a little bit.
Yeah.
You said you view everything through the lens of blues. So what is that lens?
Well, I guess a little backdrop, as I said, I had a business career. I ran a business and I got away from music. So that's the first thing. I sort of put it away. And then I was at a wine dinner. It was a church wine dinner, but a wine dinner nevertheless. And there's a guy up there on stage and he's playing acoustic guitar. He's really good. He's about my age. This was 20 years ago. And I don't know, he takes a break. I go up and I say, hey, man, that was really good stuff. And I really enjoyed listening to you. And he says, well, are you a musician? I don't know why he said that. And then I said, well, yeah, I sing. I was like, I don't know why I said that. I hadn't sung in 20 years. But I was like, yeah, I mean, I think I was at the point in my life where somebody needed to ask me if I was a musician. And then I needed to say, sure, I'm a singer. And so he said, well, hey, what do you like? And we talked about stuff like the Beatles and this and the blues a little bit. And he goes, well, tell you what, do you know this one and this one? I'm like, oh, yeah, I sing in the shower all the time, man. I'm pretty good at it. That kind of thing. So he's like, well, tell you what, let me get a glass of wine here and I'll run up on stage. Why don't you join me? I said, that sounds great. Yeah, let's do it. So I always enjoy performing. yeah, this really happened. And so we run through 2 or 3 songs, and people are like, more, do more. And I'm like, oh, what else here, Rick? And we must have gone for an hour or so. And I was like, well, that was fun. I'll see you later, buddy. And he's like, whoa, get back here. What's your name? And what's the deal here, dude? And he says, hey, we need a front man in our band. I think I said this, and I did say, well, what do you, a front man? What's that? He's like, what? He goes, come over to my house next week. We're having a band rehearsal, and let's do this thing, man. And that was 20 some odd years ago. And he was a great blues guitar player. And, we sang covers, a lot of rock and roll, but really all kind of blues based rock and roll. And these guys taught me the blues too. And then I decided, hey, I'm just a singer. And I kind of had an inferiority complex, although you might be surprised by that, Tiffany.
Yes.
Because I did hop up on stage, but I thought, hey, I got to contribute more than just singing in this band. I'm going to learn the harmonica. I always loved the harmonica in the blues. And so I started playing it, and I eventually signed up for a 1-week workshop in Clarksdale, Mississippi, where you learn the blues harmonica. And I was already playing it, and I'm playing it on stage and with the band and so forth, but I wanted to learn to get better. So here I plopped down kind of like from outer space in Clarksdale, Mississippi at the Shack Up Inn, which is literally a shack. And there's a bunch of like the greatest blues musicians I've ever seen who are really kind and helpful, and they want you to learn the blues. And some of them are like amazing at guitar and harmonica. And eventually I met, at that very first time I went there, Ralph Carter, who became my co-writer on Stuck in the Mud, that album back there, and produced both of those albums on the wall back there. Well, Ralph didn't play the harmonica, but he was one of the instructors in the camp because, he was kind of rock and roll royalty. He had played and wrote songs and was the tour musical director for Eddie Money. So here's Ralph Carter, who's like the kindest man in the world. He's kind of like Jesus, only a lot nicer. But, he's one of these guys. Ralph is just a gentle, gentle man, and we kind of hit it off. We're about the same era. And, I go down to this camp, and some people bought a harmonica on the way to the camp. It's kind of like blues fantasy camp, and that's okay. And they're going to teach them how to play. I was already playing in a band, and, I wanted to kind of like, how do you give me the secrets of this thing? I want to be a really cool guy on stage with this. And so there were people there who could teach me that too. But I remember at the first camp, it didn't take too long where Ralph and I ended up, sharing a beverage or two. And he's like, I don't know, we ended up kind of jamming and singing. And he's like, hey, sort of like, what are you doing here? You can do this. It was kind of like that. I'm like, well, I hope so. I think I can do this. And, I went back several more times, and Ralph began to say, hey, you need to start writing music. I'm like, what do I know about writing music? We talk and all that. And then one time he goes, hey, we're going to make a record together someday. I said, man, I'd love to be on your record. And he goes, we're going to do your songs. You're going to write the songs. And it was like, I'm shaking. I'm like, wait a minute. You're that guy up there on stage with Eddie Money and the videos with Apollonia and stuff like that. And I'm this guy who just sings in a cover band, and you're telling me I can do this? It didn't add up. But
there's nothing better than when somebody really sees it in you and can give you that boost of confidence before you have it for yourself. And that sounds like that's what Ralph did for you.
Well, I had a little bit of confidence. No, a little bit. No, it's because, business was serious to me, and, feeding the family and having people work for me and wanting them to, get a paycheck. That stuff's really serious. Making music, that's just total joy and fun and ridiculously cool. And so I never sweated that. I just have no frets or worries or anything about music other than I love it and it's fun. And so, I'm sort of lucky. I said to Ralph a few years ago, I'm like, dang, I wish I would have gotten into music when I was younger. In a big way. He goes, you know what? I think it worked out pretty good for you the way it ended up. Because when I got into it now, does it matter whether I have a hit song or this album does well? I'm not knotted up about that. I'm just trying to do good music and have people enjoy it. And I probably wouldn't have approached it that way if I was 20 or 25.
Right.
I'd probably gotten all wrapped around the axle, and I'd have tried too hard, and I'd have worked too hard, and you know what else too hard? Who knows what? Because I asked Ralph, what was it really like? What was it really like being a rock and roller? He said, well, imagine anything you can think of that, rock and rollers would have done back in that era. And that's exactly what we did. And so it was kind of like, oh, I get it. Oops, sorry, Ralph. I hope I'm not selling you down the river. He has a lovely wife. And so.
All right. Well, you mentioned something in there I want to make sure that we touch on before we get past it. And that was performing live and the passion you have for it. But blues performing is different than rock performing, and it's got a different feel to it, and it also incorporates humor. So how do you approach performing live?
Well, it's all about the audience. I see so many performers. I won't say his name, at a big venue here in Indianapolis a couple of years ago. And there were parts of the show where this guy who's selling zillions of records or whatever they sell nowadays, he's not even looking at the audience. I mean, he's kind of turned around. He's kind of sullen. It's like, really? That's what that's about? And so I approach it like, look, these people took time out of their lives and their days. And whether I'm singing at a small little brewery or something in the beer garden or something bigger than that, they deserve the best that we can do and sort of be taken away from the things they left to come and do this. And so I take that seriously with a big old smile on my face, because that's really what it's about. So I like having fun. The blues, I'll have guys, we'll start a blues song and it's, they're kind of vamping over there. And a lot of times I'll just tell stories. And what will I tell a story about? Anything that occurs to me. I'm like, I just tell stories. Sometimes they turn into songs, I might say, hey, how's everybody doing tonight? You say that. And you go, is everybody being nice to you? I said, is there anybody out there who had a bad day? Seriously, raise your hand. You have a bad day? I'll tell you what, that's all. I just might go into this riff and it might go 5 minutes when we're all talking about what kind of day we had and how it's bad. And by golly, we're going to put some music at you and we're going to throw the blues in your face and this is going to go away. And that's kind of our job.
Are you doing a song about this when we're finished? It's like, mer, 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 mer. I was on the Jay Franzi show. Mer, mer,
There you
mer, mer,
go.
mer.
Yeah, I've got it. I got the song, man.
Okay, we're looking forward to it.
I like that. That's the ringer on my phone. You can have that ringer on your phone.
Yes.
That riff is my ringer, of course. So how do you get the performance and the humor and that kind of stuff? And that's what the blues guys did. I would listen to Howlin Wolf or Muddy Waters, and they would tell stories. Junior Wells, oh my goodness, he might go on for 5 minutes about stuff, and it was like, I'm not trying to mimic it. I just kind of feel it. I know what they're feeling.
Well, blues is about hard times, and you can't get through hard times without having humor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's just so cool that it goes back so far. I mean, the blues is old, man. And people figured out that it kind of has a gospel tradition, too, that when you sing about having hard times and you bring everybody together, that feels better. And so I think that's where the humor is. You can see the kind of the lightheartedness in it. And I don't know, man, it's special singing the blues, playing the blues, and being able to perform for people. That's really special. So
you mentioned earlier that you're actually writing stuff. So can you tell us about your writing process?
Well, this whole adventure started with Ralph saying you should be writing music. And then I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about a recording studio in Muscle Shoals, and I snapped a photo of it. I mean, I'm a business guy. I'm reading the Wall Street Journal, and I sent it to Ralph. I said, hey, here's where we're going to make our album. And I was really just kidding. And he said, yeah, when are we going to do it? So I was like, whoa, I think he's serious. And then it kind of occurred to me, I've been a journalist, wrote for a daily newspaper, a magazine, advertising. There's always a deadline, and the thing is, I learned that as a writer, all I need is a deadline and a subject, and I'll get it done. I will get it done. And it was almost like when Ralph said, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, well, of course, let's do it. This guy thinks I can do this. I'm not about to let him down. And plus, all I need is, I'm like Pavlov I'm Pavlov's dog. You give me a deadline and something to do, and I write, man. I write 50,000 word books. I know how to crank out a lot of copy, as we say in the business. But what Ralph and I did, we said, okay, our deal was this. I'll get started writing lyrics. We'll meet in Clarksdale in a few months. I think it was like 3 months. And I'll bring my pile of lyrics with me. And Ralph he's a master musician, plays every instrument. He scores things. He writes music. I mean, he has a studio in Ventura, California. I mean, he knows this thing backwards and forwards. And I know that if I can get some lyrics, he'll turn them into music, and together we can make these things work. So I decide, okay, we're going to meet in Mississippi because he goes down for these harmonica camps. He also does guitar camps, and he does songwriting camps. So he spends a lot of time in Clarksdale. I said, hey, after your last camp's over, I'll meet you at the airport. Or he was flying in, and I said, I'll pick you up at the airport in Memphis. We'll drive down an hour and a half to Clarksdale, and I'll have my lyrics, and we'll sit there for 3 days, and let's just get this thing done. And then we'll be up in Muscle Shoals, where we were scheduled to record, I don't know, a couple months later. We're like, okay, that sounds like a plan. Let's do that. And so we did. I will tell you one of the craziest things. While I was on my way down, I drove from Indianapolis. It's about 8 hours. You drive through 6 states to get to Clarksdale, which is kind of fun. But I remember looking down at the map, the GPS thing in the car, and I'm like, where in the heck am I? And I looked down and it said 3 hours from Memphis. And I said, 3 hours from Memphis. I think I might have even said it out loud. And I'm like, holy cow, that's a song. And so I had this idea for this song just pop into my head. I don't know how. And I wrote a song called 3 Hours from Memphis about a guy who's on his way to Memphis to see a music man because he thinks he's going to be a star. And he's going to make it. He's been paying his dues for 15 years. So I write this song. Well, the idea for the song pops into my head. I'm driving and I'm like, I'm too scared to pull off the road. I'm afraid I'm going to forget the idea. So I got out some paper and I set it on the armrest over here and I wrote the lyrics to the song as I'm driving with one hand. I'm used to playing harmonica and driving, so I'm okay with this. I literally, I mean, it's real. This really happened. This is not, it didn't happen. He's just making this up. I can't believe Wyze. He's a fabulist, but that's not true. This really happened. And so I remember when I was done kind of scribbling, I looked down and it was like 1 hour of Memphis. It's like, I can't account for those 2 hours. I can't account for how that idea came to me. Now, here's the crazy thing. So I meet him in Memphis, blah, blah, blah. We do this. We then go to Muscle Shoals a few months later. We record this album for God knows what reason. We don't know what we're going to do with it. Later, I sign a record deal with a record label in Memphis. And I had no clue. And so later, I'm looking at the lyrics to this song after I recorded it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is autobiographical. This is about you, you big knucklehead. You're on your way to Memphis to meet a music guy, and you're going to be a star. And it's the spookiest thing. And I talk to other songwriters, and you listen to other songwriters about their craft and how they do it. And they're like, I don't get it. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. It came through me. I don't feel like I did it. And I'll tell you what, that song right there, I don't know what happened, but it was my life story before it happened. And so
time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Sorry to weird you out there on that one, but I don't know. So my process is I just need a story idea. I need a deadline, and I kind of, get the blues a little bit. And then I have some great co-writers. Ralph and I wrote 8 songs together on our first album. Eric Deaton, a guy that plays with the Black Keys, and Hank Williams Jr., and he played with Tony Joe White. I mean, incredible musician. He and I wrote a song on the album. Me and my bass player wrote a couple, and me and Carrie Hudson, who's a great Americana artist who I met at a songwriting camp and asked him to help me with a couple of songs that I had lyrics for. And so he and I put those together in Clarksdale, Mississippi. So my process is to have a story, an idea, and then to tell the story in a few hundred words. That's all I've got, which isn't really terribly challenging. I'm used to, writing a story and having it be done in a couple hours. I mean, that's the way I learned to write. And I don't I write. That's what I do. That's what I know how to do.
What studio did you record in?
We recorded it in Ivy Manor at the Shoals, and it was new at the time. And what I liked about it that caught my attention is you go there and you live there. It's in an old mansion that this guy, Michael Wright, kind of refurbed and made into a studio. And so we stayed there. On Monday morning, I met the band. We didn't have a band. So Ralph wrote charts and he auditioned the studio musicians. He brought Eric Deaton to the sessions, our guitar player. And, I picked up Ralph in Clarksdale. We drove up to Muscle Shoals and I met everybody who was in our band on Monday morning. And Thursday afternoon, we cut everybody loose. And we stuck around and did some vocal stuff on Friday and pretty much walked out of there Saturday with a finished record from a group of guys I'd never played with. These songs didn't exist. Being in a cover band, I had recorded several CDs of just covers, that we would, hey, we're a good band, listen to our covers here, and the thing is, and they were good. I liked them, good old blues songs and so forth. But, the thing with that is by the time I recorded them, I probably performed them, 100 times. And so we go in the studio and it's just like, turn the thing on, man, let's go. We know this song. We went in the studio on Muscle Shoals and no one had ever heard these songs, including me. We didn't know what they sounded like. We had me and Ralph on my iPhone sitting at a picnic table going, it kind of sounds like this. And so that's all we had. So it wasn't that we were going to record these songs that we had created. It was that we went there to create these songs that we sort of intended. We had the words, we had the ideas for the songs. It's kind of like saying, well, I got an idea for a painting, and here's the paints, and here's the brushes, and I know how to operate them, but you still got to make a painting. And that's what Ralph Carter did as the producer, which I didn't know what a producer did. And now I know that what he does is, he can play all those instruments. He would say, hey, I'm hearing a little Hammond organ here, or I want that Wurlitzer piano, or Justin, I don't like the timbre of that snare. But what else you got, Michael? And you pull a different snare drum off the rack and you put it out there, and he listens to it and says, let me think about that, stuff like that. And the great thing about having a producer, I'm still a rookie to this. I've only made a couple records, is that he's got the pressure to deliver the song. He's calling on us to do what we do. Chris, can you sing that? You know how to do that. Play the harp, play the harmonica. Justin, you play the drums, and Eric, you play this on the guitar, and et cetera. And you guys do your thing, because it's an improvisational sort of a genre anyway, that, we're kind of making it up as we go. And that's what I like about it. I don't really read music, and I don't know if anybody in the band did, but they get it. And so, yeah. And we just lived there for the week with these guys. Several of them lived there in Muscle Shoals. The rest of us came into town and stayed there. We ate there. We hung out there. We never left. We left one day and went out to grab a sandwich. But we stayed there for 5 days, and we just became this band and recording artists. And the whole thing was kind of magical, being in a studio setting like that where we could be away from the world and just make this music and then get out of there. So
your background in the corporate world was in marketing and advertising. So were you able to tie that into, say, the graphic design and then the promotion of this product?
No question. So if you went to my website, at pretty much every word there I've written. I also design and produce the website. So, I have some design skills. But, having an advertising agency, I had art directors, I had designers, I had illustrators. I understand photography. I used to own a printing company. I understand the graphic arts. I understand design. And so one of the first things I did, I didn't even have a band name when we went to that studio. When we got done, I had to invent a band name and even a name for myself. That's my stage name. I have a different name in the real world. So I invented that, being a marketing guy and a promotion guy. And then I enlisted a guy I'd worked with. He's from Spain. His name's Coldo Barrasso. So I directed Coldo to do this illustration. And it's so funny. Coldo's never seen the land in Mississippi. He kept making mountains back there. I'm like, Coldo, it's flat. And he would make it kind of rolling, and then he'd make it a little bit rolling. I'm saying, Coldo, can you draw a straight line? That is the Mississippi Delta right there. And, I'd give him a picture of a shack and a picture of a tractor, and then see that picture of me with that shovel. So I had this idea for the song Stuck in the Mud and the graphic idea here for this cover. And I said, hey, Sally, grab the iPhone here. We got to shoot some reference photos for Coldo. So, I know from graphic arts, most illustrators can't make something up. They need some reference art. So I'm over here behind this wall in my basement. I said, Sally, grab the camera. I said, I'm going to do some poses. So I do a couple. She goes, okay, I got him. I'm like, no. We shot 3,000. I counted it, 3,000 photographs to get that pose right there of me. And then, of course, we gave it to Coldo, and he made it into an illustration. So, I understand that that's what it takes to do quality sort of graphic work and graphic design. That's his hand lettering. I found the shack, a photograph of the shack I liked. I found a tree I liked. I found the tractor I liked. And, I know how to work with creative people and designers to end up with a product like this. And then I produced the thing and put some of my photography in there. I used to be a photo editor at a magazine. And then I wrote a booklet. We got a 20-page booklet that's inside of there that tells the story of how this thing came to be. I put the lyrics to the songs. I want people to be able to see what these stories are about. And I put some photographs of us having fun making records. We recorded 3 songs actually in Clarksdale, Mississippi after I signed the record deal, and I figured out I couldn't be a country star. I said, I got to take this record. And we even had a couple songs that didn't make it onto the final record. They were not blues oriented. And so working with Big Radio Records and Johnny Phillips, we said, hey, let's really go all in on the blues. So I wrote some new songs, and we went down to Clarksdale, Mississippi, and recorded them in Clarksdale because there were some guys there that Ralph knew, and he was there. And I'm like, let's just go do it there. And we did. And we were going to record 2 songs. And then the night before, I always do this kind of stuff to myself. I'm like, Ralph, hey, we got the guys here. Say, what if we did a 3rd song? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, maybe a cover. And I'm like, I don't want to do a cover. And he's like, well, I'll tell you what, this is late at night. He goes, well, why don't you write a new song? And we'll do that tomorrow. I'm like, okay, that sounds good.
I mean, he gave you a deadline.
He did. And so I remember staying up late with Jerry Murphy, our bass player, Murph. And Murph and I had this song that we'd done in our cover band. We kind of took this song and we put kind of new music to it, but I used somebody else's lyrics. And Ralph knows that song. He said, well, what about that song? You wrote that, didn't you? I said, well, Ralph, I didn't have the heart to tell you. We really didn't write that song. Those aren't my words. He's like, those are covered. I said, the lyrics are covers. Me and Murph kind of did the music. He goes, why don't you write some new lyrics for that? This is 10 o'clock at night, and we're going to record the next morning at like 9. And I'm like, okay. Okay, sure. That sounds good. I'll do that. I'll have that, So I remember going to bed, and I took a little notebook. I'm in my shack. Literally, you stay at the Shack Up Inn, and it is a shack. You should go to shackupinn.com, anyone, and you should go stay there. It's unbelievable. If you didn't have the blues, you will have the blues. If you don't know how to write the blues, you will learn how to write the blues. Just hang in there. So I start writing this, and I don't have anything going. I'm like, nah, I don't have it. I don't know what this song's about. So I go to bed. I don't have the song. I said, but before I went to bed, and this sounds like another crazy story, I said, you know what? When I wake up, I'm going to have this song. I know I will. And I did. I woke up, and I had this idea for this song called Hard Work Don't Pay. It's a great blues song. It's like, I'm tired of working for the man. This hard work crap doesn't pay. And so we wrote and recorded, or I wrote that morning and recorded that day, Hard Work Don't Pay. We had the band there. It's like, Murph, let's teach them Hard Work Don't Pay. And then I had the lyrics in front of me. We did a music video, and of course I've got the music stand in front of me because I don't even know the words. They're not even, the ink's not even dry on the paper, and we're recording the darn thing. So we really did do that. And Kerry Hudson's such an amazing guitar player and performer. He performs all over the South. He's an incredible singer, songwriter, guitar player, and he just added so much amazing work to several songs that I wrote, and a couple of them I wrote with him, like Stuck in the Mud, which was the name of the the album. We had actually intended to record that in Muscle Shoals, and Ralph and I were in the studio working with it. It's like, this isn't working. So I met Carrie and said, hey, I got a song I can't quite seem to make work. Would you be willing to work with me on this? And he did. We sat at a picnic table at the Shack Up Inn, and probably in 15 or 20 minutes, he's like, why don't you do this? And hey, you got too many words in this thing, and let's move this over here, and here's kind of how it sounds. And he's like, I gotta go. And I'm like, okay. And so then we recorded it a few weeks later. So we did a demo that day, which we almost kept on the album. It was good. We went and did it inside the Juke Joint Chapel they've got recording equipment there, but we actually ended up doing it in Muscle Shoals in one take. I was in a vocal booth on one floor of the studio, and Eric Deaton, the guitar player, was in the basement. I couldn't see him. We had, headphones on, cans, and this song was called Life Behind Bars. We did one take, and Ralph, who's the producer, he said, look, Eric, just follow him. And Eric was like, yeah, I got it. And I think we did part of the song, and he said, well, let's just try one. So we did it, and I got done. I said, I'm not doing that again, Eric. How about you? He goes, I can't do any better. I said, I for certain can't do any better. So that was a one-take Charlie on the
good chemistry.
Yeah, it's called Life Behind Bars, about a guy who, he lives his life behind the 12 bars. He's kind of a prisoner to the 12 bars of the blues, and his life is behind bars because he passes out in the alley, and his life is behind bars, and so forth. So it's a little bit of story.
I love a dual meaning like that.
Yeah. So that's Life Behind Bars.
What was it like what is the difference in experience? So you have the songs, and then you're going to go record them, but you guys put them together with the lyrics, you and Ralph, and then 3 months later you record. Now in this situation, you're like, I don't know, the song's gonna come to me in the morning. I have to imagine that's like super awesome to have this song come to you, be able to cut it that same day, and you're like, holy crap, it's living, it's breathing, compared to the other time where, you had 3 months to kind of sit on it and noodle and think about it. And what was that like? I've got to imagine it's like super cool feeling.
Well, as I said, me and Murph kind of knew the music, so it was pretty easy. I mean, that groove was inside me. I'd done it 100 times, and so then it's just like, well, hey, this is like paint by numbers, man. Just write some new words to the music that we already had. But it was really fun, and I kind of liked the pressure of having to get it done when I woke up and having about 90 minutes to get it done.
Sure, it's got to be super gratifying.
It was cool. And to have it kind of work, it's just like, it's basically take this job and shove it, man. That's what that song is, which has been done 1,000 times in 1,000 ways, but that was our interpretation of that. So it was very fun.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love that creative process. I'm also curious, how difficult was it to learn the harmonica? It seems very simple to me. You just slide back and forth, but there's got to be a breathing technique or something. Like, if we can go back to that a little bit, I was just kind of curious, all these people are there. They're maybe not as serious as you, but you're really trying to figure out, what do I not know? What did you learn? How do you learn to play the harmonica?
Well, it helped to understand the blues, the pattern of the blues, the 1-4-5 pattern. And the harmonica is kind of a chord thing you can blow, and you automatically make a decent thing. On a piano, you got to have your hands in the right place. Here, you just kind of blow and draw, and it makes the right sounds. So I had already been playing on stage and had a few like instructional CDs that I could get by just kind of making sure I was in the 1 chord when we're on the 1 chord and the 4 chord and the 5 chord. And I kind of got that. So, I mean, within a couple of weeks, I was playing it with the band, not in any kind of, hey, and now we'll turn the solo over to that guy. I mean, I wasn't ready for that, but I could play along. So I think it's a very, at least if you have some musical kind of, I get it, a pretty simple thing to get up to kind of somewhat competent very, very quickly. And then to get really good is a lifetime pursuit. And I'm, I'm an okay harmonica player. There's guys who I just melt because they're so amazing, like R.J. Michaud, who is a teacher of mine, and Jason Ritchie, who's an unbelievable harmonica player who I've taken lessons from and things like that. So the next mountain is quite tall, and it goes up in the clouds, and you don't know where the top is, and you'll never get there. But the little foothills are kind of fun and peppy.
Yeah.
You can do it, Tiffany. Come on.
Don't give her hope.
We gotta have hope.
She's going to show up on the next episode with a harp and it's going to wear me out.
My wife won't let me play it at home. Seriously, I never play it at home. I only play it in the car or at band rehearsal or practice. That's it. Because she just, who wants to hear a harmonica? I don't know. Without the whole band.
I would.
And it causes the dog to go nuts. All right, going back to your marketing a little bit here. Are you now taking that knowledge and applying it to social media to grow a following in that world?
Yeah, no question. I bet I spend 30 to 40 hours a week on promotion and social media. That's what I do. I'm getting a kick out of it. We got fans all over the world. We've got thousands of followers now on Facebook. And guys, you got to maybe one thing to remember or know about us is I've played 2 shows with this band, Christopher Wyze and the Tellers. One of them we recorded and released as a live album and a video that goes with it. And also a 50-minute documentary that I filmed in Clarksdale, Mississippi about the blues, because I wanted to do that and have people see Clarksdale. And people told me, you can't do this. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to be a marketing dude, and I'm going to apply what I know here. And I advertise every day of the year on Facebook, every day. And, I make videos, I make posts. I mean, we're active with it because I got to build a following, because I have other dreams for where we're going with this music, and we need people to get on the old Christopher Wyze and the Tellers junk wagon, and because it wouldn't be a bandwagon, that'd be too sophisticated. Ours has to be kind of a junk wagon. So jump on the dang junk wagon or that tractor back there, and I do it through marketing. So I spend a lot of time on the marketing, and I get that. And when it was my job and I ran an advertising agency, that was work. But you know what it is now? It's like joy. I was like, I have fun with this. I get to write the copy and approve the copy. I don't have to send it to a client. I am the client. Of course, I work for a jerk now that I'm the client, but whatever.
All right, sir. Well, we do this thing here we call Unsung Heroes, where we take a moment to shine the light on somebody who may have worked behind the scenes or supported you in some sort of way. Is there anybody that you would like to shine a little light on?
Yeah, I'll say Jerry Murphy, who plays bass in my band. And he was at the guy's house who said, hey, come over next week, and we're going to have band practice, and you're going to be the front man. Well, there was this guy there, Jerry Murphy, who was playing bass. And I'm sure he was rolling his eyes. It's like, oh, dear God, Rick's had a bunch of wine, and now he's invited this guy over to be in the band. But from the day I met him, he has been like my wingman, supporter, teacher, mentor. Really has taught me the blues and music and performing. He's quite an accomplished musician. He wrote 2 of the songs on our album, Stuck in the Mud. He went down to Muscle Shoals with me a couple of weeks ago. We had a couple TV appearances in Nashville and Huntsville. I said, Murph, how'd you like to go on a road trip? And he's like, heck yes, CW, I'll go with you. And I mean, he's just my wingman, man. And he's just always there with me, and I couldn't do it without him. And for me to be able to look across in the studio or on stage and to see Jerry Murphy there, it's like, things gonna be all right. I get it. Murph is in the house,
Very cool.
That's cool.
All right. Well, we have done it. We have reached the top of the hour, which does mean we have reached the end of the show. If you've enjoyed the show, please tell a friend. And Miss Tiffany, if you have not,
Tell 2.
Tell 2. You can also reach out to the 2 of us. Hell, you can reach out to all 3 of us over at jfrenzy.com, and we will be happy to keep this conversation going. Christopher, sir, we cannot thank you enough for joining us tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure. You will have to come back and share some of the other stories, including this documentary that we were not prepared for tonight. So I would like to get into that a little bit with you as well. But for tonight, we would like to leave the final words to you.
Well, one of the great things about this little journey I've been on is it's really kind of corny, but is making friends along the way. And I think if I'd have been a young man, I'd have probably not been nice to people, and I'd have thought I was kind of important and so forth. But what's been fun to do this after having gone through all that and maybe grown up a little bit is to sit back and go, I met Jay and I met Tiffany today, and every day I get one of those or two of those or three of those, and it's like wow, I like, this is cool. I met you guys. I really want to know where you live, so to speak, Tiffany. Where do you live? You said Florida.
She lives at 924 West 2nd Street. Oh,
I got directions to your place, Christopher. It's cool.
I know you were going to stop me. No, but I guess that's the last thing I would say is I wouldn't be here with all these wonderful people like you. You're helping our music. This is like amazing. We've never met before, and I want to help you too. But it's just really amazing when people, help you, and what nice people there are in the world. So I mean, it sounds corny, but it's dang true. I mean, that's the way I want it to be. It's just about having fun and making friends and spreading some music that makes people kind of enjoy themselves.
On that note, folks, have a good night.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franzi Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranzi.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.